what I wanna know is after kind of, like, going through those, do you feel like you might have some form of PTSD?
Welcome back to another episode, my people. How are you,
Yes.
my lovely Cassie?
Oh, I'm just great today. Just
And
kidding.
no, she can't start any episode without laughing.
I really can't. It's probably so annoying, and I apologize. But no,
Oh,
I'm in, like, a weird mood today, but, I mean, I'm okay. I'll snap out of it eventually. It just is what it
yeah.
is today.
Maybe you just need a little more sunlight. Sometimes that helps the body to just kind of
Maybe.
absorb what it needs and kind of help you regather. Or a nap. I love me a nap. A nap
That
is helpful. Just
that could
saying.
be true too. It is supposed to
Yeah.
be a nice day out, so we'll see.
Right. Go out, go to the park, get a little sun, come back in, take a little cat nap, you know, wake up, have a little lunch or snack or something, pull yourself together.
There you go. I will
Yeah.
have to do that, and I'll report back later.
If I don't hear from you, I'm just going to assume it's a good day. That's all.
Sounds like a good plan.
But we're in the month of June already. Like, we are storming through this year, like halfway through the year.
Crazy.
I know, it literally just began. Like, what is
Feel
going
like it
on?
did. Yeah, I don't
Y-
know.
and if y'all know us personally, we do have some things going on in our personal lives. So that is allowing the time to pass by even faster than it really needs to because we are so busy.
Yes.
Um, so hopefully the second half of the year will have a little bit of a slower pace, but just as enjoyable pace, you know?
Yeah, one could only
So
hope. It's been a lot. I'm tired.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We're gonna need a lot of beach and relaxation for the rest of the summer. But
Mhm.
but anywho, so it's June and it is the month of PTSD awareness.
Yes.
And before we dig into it, I just want to say that I've come to notice over probably the past, I would say 5-ish years of what I can really recall
Hmm.
is that we have these national awareness months or national month of something or it's a national day.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like where did that come from? Because I feel like when we were younger that wasn't a thing. I don't remember that being a thing. I remember
Mm,
national holidays because it's a holiday. Like
right.
that's always been what it is before we were even born.
Mhm.
But one thing I'll always remember is when I worked at my first Home Depot store and it was National Hot Dog Day. And I'm like, what the hell is National Hot Dog Day? Like, oh, it's National Hot Dog Day. So we're providing hot dogs for everybody. And I'm just like, ow. Sorry, just hit my elbow every freaking time
Oh my
on or off camera.
god.
But yeah, so it just kind of was like a random thing to me, National Hot Dog Day. What? I don't know. So there's just like National Lollipop Day, and it was fun in the sense of like my job would do different, things for whatever national day it was.
Yeah.
And even the job that I'm in now, which is still with Home Depot, but a different part of the business, someone every morning posts in our teams meeting, it's National whatever day, and it's like a list of a whole bunch of different things, and I'm like, it really doesn't stop.
No, it'd be like the most random shit too sometimes. You're
It
like,
really is.
"Why does a pickle have its own day?" Like
Right. It's super random, but when it comes to like looking at months of awareness and things like that, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because I really don't realize you don't realize there's certain things out there sometimes, or you don't realize how big or important or how impactful something is either.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool to have like a national, or excuse me, not national, but like a month of awareness for a specific thing.
Yeah.
So for June, we have PTSD, we have brain awareness, we also have Alzheimer's. Within the month, I've seen that we have Juneteenth, of course. We have um, National Cancer Survivor Day.
Mhm.
which is on June 6th. Um, those are just a few of the things that fall into this month of June that, is a national, uh, I guess, topic we can call it, or a topic of awareness. I guess a topic of awareness is probably the better way to put it.
Yeah, I think
Topics
that's
of awareness.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good that you and I speak on PTSD. I can't really relate to Alzheimer's and brain awareness. I don't
Same.
know about, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we really can't elaborate so much on those topics. The only thing that I know that I have some sort of relationship when it comes to brain awareness,
Mm.
is when my grandmother was, you know, essentially on her deathbed, getting ready to pass soon, and she was calling people the wrong name. Like, I think she called my mom or my aunt her sister's name.
Oh.
And, so it's just like, for me, brain awareness, that I can relate it to is just as your body is going into a new state, you see how the brain is operating differently.
Mhm.
And, there's less of that cognitive function that we're used to people having. Um, but when it comes to like Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that, I unfortunately don't have much that I can really share personal experience on.
Yeah, same, and I'm, you know, feel bad for those that have those experiences just because I
Mm,
really can't imagine having a loved one, like, not remember who you are, so
right. Like that
devastating.
should be tough. And especially when it's like someone you've known all your life, and
Mhm.
then you just feel like you're a forgotten one,
Yeah, it's crazy.
but they
So
never forget us. They just are in a different place.
yes, definitely.
That's the way I understand it. So Cassie, what is PTSD? Can you tell us for those who don't know?
I sure can. So, this is something that I don't know about yourself, but I haven't really looked into until, we started, like, researching this kind of stuff because I don't really peg myself to be a person that has PTSD, but after, like, I kinda, like, read up on it more, I realized that maybe I do have, like, some different forms. So, I kinda wanna get into it a little bit, but before we
Okay.
really get into, all the details here, just for everybody who doesn't know, because I guess I didn't really understand, like, what a definition of PTSD is either.
Hmm.
So it's a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, and that's either by experiencing it yourself or just being a witness to that event.
Mm,
So, with that kind of, like, vague of a definition, that can really fall into, like, a number of different things. Like, for me, when
hmm.
you think of PTSD, you think of people that have been in war. Like, it's
Right.
that dramatic kind of a
Hmm.
situation. You don't think of the little things of, like, losing a loved one or, I don't know, being in, like, a domestic violence situation or,
Hmm.
even, like, a car accident, I think
Right.
could
Yep.
do something like that. So, I think it's really interesting to look at from, like, different perspectives. Because, like, for you, what do you think of when you hear PTSD? Is it the same thing like war?
PTSD is always going to have war as the first thing for me.
Right.
And, between media and, like media as in TV, movies, and then also just hearing stories of those who were in the service,
Mhm.
which I feel like that's what I've experienced the least of is personal stories of those who served, but it's one of those things that are always highlighted on the TV. If you're watching something that's war related, PTSD is always something that's brought up. I feel
Right.
like when it comes to those genres of film or series, whatever, and it really allows you to be confined on your mindset of how PTSD is applicable in so many different areas, like you said.
Mhm.
So I do apply it to that first. I apply it to like tragic accidents. So like vehicle accidents, things where if people's houses or something randomly catches fire, or, even like how we spoke in our previous episode, like school shootings or just shootings in general, mass shootings. things like
That's
that.
definitely yeah.
I would put that as number 2 as my initial thought of uh, people who would develop PTSD from those experiences.
Gotcha.
Um, Losing a loved one, I never really feel like I categorize PTSD to be something
Same.
that you can develop from that. It just I've categorized like anxiety and depression and things like that, but I
Mhm.
never thought, oh, PTSD. But then you have to think about when someone loses a loved one, how did they lose that loved one?
Right. Yeah.
That's what makes
So
a difference.
exactly. And so next I wanna go over 5 different types of PTSD, and there, I think you'll be able to see which one, if any, I guess, we'll
Hmm.
leave it up, for a decision here,
Okay.
would something like that fall under? Alright?
Okay.
So, the first one is just, a normal stress response.
Okay.
So, this is just something that happens before PTSD begins. But it might not necessarily, like, go into, like, the full-blown, like, disorder of PTSD. So
Hmm.
it can be things like you had just mentioned, like accidents, injuries, surgeries,
Hmm.
or something that can cause like, an unreasonable amount of tension.
Mm.
That's kind of, like, a very basic, like, pre-PTSD, like, situation.
Yep.
Then you can have acute stress disorder. So that, um, can occur in people who have been exposed to what is or what feels like a life-threatening event, so natural disasters.
Mm.
This
Didn't even think of those.
specifies yeah, that's true, me neither.
Hmm.
This specifies here loss of loved ones, loss of a job, or risk of death are all stressors that can trigger acute stress disorder.
Whew.
So, keep that one in the back of your noggin because it specifically states loss of a
Lost.
loved one.
Yep.
And then we have uncomplicated PTSD, which is linked to one major traumatic event versus multiple events. And this says here that this is easy. This is actually the easiest form of PTSD to treat.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so things that can be symptoms of this is avoidance of trauma reminders,
Hmm.
nightmares, flashbacks to the event, um,
Hmm.
irritability, mood changes, and changes in relationship.
Mm. That
So
makes sense.
keep that one in your noggin.
Holding.
The next one being complex PTSD. So this is opposite of the uncomplicated PTSD that we just went over. So this is caused by multiple traumatic events, not just one. So
Mm.
this is very common in abuse or domestic violence. This is where the war comes into play because
Right.
you have that repeated exposure to those kinds of things.
Correct.
Or here it also lists sudden loss. So to
Mm.
me, that would say like if your loved one got like murdered or something,
Correct. Or even what about like suicide?
or something like that as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and this can be where somebody would exhibit extreme emotional issues, so like really intense rage or depression.
Mm. Okay.
So that's more of like the a little more severe PTSD. And then we have the last one here, which is comorbid PTSD. So, this is a blanket term that is used for co occurring disorders. It's applied when a person has more than one mental health concern, often coupled with substance abuse issues.
Mm.
As many people suffer from more than one condition at a time, best results are achieved with both the commingling.
You got this, girl. Commingling.
Good lord, yes. Oh my god.
I feel like that's usually me.
Oh, shit. Mental health condition and then comorbid PTSD are treated the same. Um, so this can include self-medication and other destructive behavior, so using drug or alcohol as a way to numb the pain.
Mm.
That one is interesting for personal not personal, but personal
Right.
reasons.
Right. I get what you mean. Not for yourself.
Right.
Not for yourself. You know, it's crazy because I was thinking while you were speaking about this too, is that as you were speaking about the 5 different types,
Mhm.
it makes it very clear that is not a lifelong disorder. It doesn't have to be
No.
a
Yeah.
lifelong disorder, because depending on where of those 5 you fall in, I forgot the name of it, but, like, the one you said that is the easiest because of it being a was it a one occurrence or one situational,
Yeah, so the uncomplicated PTSD.
uncomplicated, right?
Yeah.
So, once I heard that, it was just kinda like, "Oh, so it's not something that necessarily is stuck with you for life because once again, when you look at films and you see on the big screens people with PTSD, there's never really a PTSD that goes away. It just kind of seems like someone who always has it and will always have it.
Right. Well, and it's things you have to kind of, maybe not necessarily get treatment for, but, like, work on those problems. Because
Hmm.
even so for that one that's being related to one traumatic event,
Yeah.
it's the effects from that event that you just, like, keep reliving and rethinking over and over again. So,
Hmm.
once you're able to kind of, like, steer clear of having those same thoughts or letting whatever that situation is trigger you,
Hmm.
then I feel like you can get better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and keep in mind, people, that for PTSD, it does require a medical diagnosis. So, I mean, I feel like, yeah, as people, we do self-diagnose ourselves. But for especially for those of you who are in a position where it really is taking a toll on you and truly affecting your life,
Mhm.
you can always go to a medical physician to be able to, one, have it diagnosed, and then also to be able to then get treatment on the next best steps to help you through.
Yes, definitely. But what I wanna know is after kind of, like, going through those, do you feel like you might have some form of PTSD?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember which one sounds like one that you experienced?
One of the first three. um, I remember you had said acute. Acute was the one that specifically mentioned the loss of a loved one.
Yes, yes.
Um, the uncomplicated, I remember because we just spoke about it. But that also too is, uh, that one is the one where you notice if you have like avoidant behaviors and things like that, um, to a specific situation. And then I don't remember the second one you said.
Well, so acute was the second one. The first one was just the
Lord,
normal stress. So the one
normal
where
stress. Okay.
accidents, injuries, those kind of things.
Okay. That was the first one that said a loved one. No,
No, no, you had it right. The
acute.
acute
Okay.
stress. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, you had it right.
I'm so crazy. No, sorry. Um,
No, it's right. We're just doing all this on the fly.
I feel like, if you look at me from the outside and I lost my mom, um, I would maybe want to be considered under the acute category.
Mhm.
I don't know why I did air quotes. But I feel like myself, I would fall under the uncomplicated. And I say that with a little back history of the trauma I feel like I've been dealt
Mhm.
is, I was driving with my mom, and this is literally 5 days before she passed away.
Mhm.
Um, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 4 days before she passed away. Excuse me. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I had to make sure I have my days correct. It was 4 days before she passed away,
Yeah.
and we were driving in the car. And well, actually, it started when we were at Nat's house, and um, Nat and I were working on refinishing her dresser for her baby that was coming.
Mm.
And my mom wanted to come with me, which I thought was weird, but I'm like, all right, cool, you can come with me. And then she was saying how she wasn't feeling good as we were there. And then so we stopped at Nat's house to get, because we were at her mom's house, stopped at Nat's house to get a banana to give my mom some potassium because she was saying how she was feeling weak.
Mm.
And we were driving home, and my mom just kind of like passed out in the middle of me driving.
It's terrible.
And it was like she became, she passed out, so she was unresponsive.
Yeah.
And I feel very very strong being able to talk about this today. I just want you to know.
I'm sure that sounds horrible.
So she passed out while I was driving, and I couldn't get her to respond. And I'm like trying to like kind of like shake her and wake her,
Yeah.
and I couldn't get her to come through. So obviously I'm driving and calling 911, and she comes back through, and I'm like, "You're going to the hospital." I called for the ambulance. I was on the back roads, so I don't know the correct terminology. The person who answers the phone, there's a word for
Dispatcher.
them. Dispatcher, thank you. So the dispatcher and I came up with a meeting location so that way, because I'm like, I could drive her all the way to the hospital, I said, but I don't want that same situation to happen to me again because I can't.
Right, right.
Like, it was already hard. Like, I'm physically driving a car and trying not to panic that my mom just passed out in the middle of me driving.
Yeah.
So, that was I was able to meet up with them, like, within a 2-mile range from where we were. Like, it wasn't terrible, maybe 2.5 because we're on the back roads, but,
Mhm.
she stayed conscious until I got to the ambulance, and then I ended up having them transport her to the hospital, met her at the hospital. But that was, like, I'll never forget that, and I can still, to this day, drive in that same exact area, know exactly where I was at when everything happened,
Yeah.
and for a while, I would just avoid driving in that area. And now I don't because gas prices are high, and I take a sacrifice when I do drive in that area, but it doesn't hurt as bad.
Right. Shows growth.
Yeah, but my I guess my way of getting through it is I talk. Like if I'm in the car with someone, I will literally tell them like one of the most traumatic things happened to me right here. And it's just like I don't have to say that. But like I have to say it
Right, it helps.
because it's just stuck in my brain, and it's one of those like you have to speak it out loud to release it.
Mhm.
So that was one very traumatic situation. I would say the second one um, was before that. Uh, my mom wasn't feeling well. We went to the hospital, and mind you, this is all like within like 2 months prior to her passing. Like these traumatic experiences.
Mhm.
Um, we went to the hospital. She wasn't feeling well. We were waiting in the um, waiting room because we went to the ER, and she was in a wheelchair because she was feeling, very weak, and she like randomly had a seizure. It looked
It's crazy.
like she kind of just like her body like convulsed, kind of.
Mm.
Um, Extremely scary. Um, and like just I don't know. I don't even know how I do it. I literally was able to like internally freak out, but on my exterior, you couldn't tell how much I was freaking out because I'm just rushing to get a nurse.
Mhm.
Like I understand we're waiting to get a room, but like my mom is like having a seizure right now and I don't know what's going on,
Right.
you know? And so and then just the way the rest of the night went was just long. She ended up getting transported to another hospital an hour away, blah, blah, blah. It was just so those two experiences like really have stuck with me.
Mhm.
And if I think about it, there is a third one, when they wanted to put a like tube up her nose, and
Oh.
this is like within a day or two before her passing. I think 2 days before her passing, they wanted to put a tube up her nose,
Mhm.
and my mom was very weak, but the fight she had put up, and like seeing how uncomfortable she was, and looking at the hospital staff and doctors like try to like restrain her from
Mm.
something that she didn't want to happen. I literally had to yell at them
Yeah.
and tell them to stop and don't do it.
Right.
And like, oh, that just like really bothers me. So, um anytime I see something go up someone's nose, I just can't. Like
So that makes sense
I
now.
yeah, well yeah, we talked about that. But yeah, so I already don't like things up my nose to begin with, but then that happened to my mom and I was just like, F that. No, like no. And it
Yeah.
just like it really really hit me hard because it's like she's already like dying. Like we know she's dying right now.
Right.
And you're really restraining her to put something up her nose. And she's like, okay, I know she's not like 100% there, but she's telling you no.
Yeah. Was it a feed tube?
No, it wasn't a feed tube
Oh, okay.
because she wasn't, I don't think she was allowed to eat anymore because we knew.
Oh.
But I'm like, ah! Oh my gosh, I was so angry. So,
Yeah, no, that's the
th-
worst thing.
those are the things that stick with me. And those I feel like allow me to be in the uncomplicated category for PTSD because I know that I can let those things go at some point. And with the like driving down that street,
Mhm.
that's gotten easier for me over time. But I think it's for that specific situation, I think time has to pass for me to
Right.
just feel better with it.
Yeah.
Um, the other incident in the hospital with like the seizure thing, I think once again, like time, but I think I'll always be like uncomfortable with that, of course. And then
Mhm.
the nose thing, I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
People out here
that's
getting
you.
COVID tests and getting shoved up to the brain, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let me need oxygen for anything. I know that just sits in your nostrils, but like that's about as far as that's gonna go.
Yeah, I don't see you ever getting over that one.
No. So yeah, so that is where I feel like I fall in the categories for different classes of PTSD.
Yeah. I would say that that sounds about right, because I would, after reading all of this, classify myself to be the same one.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been through a lot with our parents being in the hospital, and we've
Mhm.
seen a lot of traumatic things, and
Mhm.
it just it does something different to you to where there are certain things like for me, I'm a class 1 like avoider over here, so I
Mm.
certainly do avoid a lot of situations um that I
One of
don't need to do to remind myself of horrible
certain things.
yeah,
Exactly.
like not at all. So, just yeah. Um, but I also have like, I don't have as traumatic of an experience as you, like, driving and having, like, my dad, like, pass out or anything, but I remember
Mhm.
driving down this one road in Connecticut, and that's when we got the call from the doctor that told us that his cancer was back.
Yep.
And so now, I couldn't tell you the last time I drove down that road, but whenever I do, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday, so
Yeah.
that I can definitely relate
Oh.
with, that's for sure, and just the experience of losing somebody, I've noticed I'm, like, a lot more paranoid than I used to be,
Mm.
like, I feel like we talk about this all the time, but, like, if someone doesn't answer me within, like, a day's time and sometimes not even a day, sometimes it can literally just be a few hours, and, like, I'll have a panic attack and think, like, that
Ah,
person is dead.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
and it doesn't matter who it is, it's not just my mom, like, it's
Mhm.
you, it's, my boyfriend, it's anybody. If I don't hear from
Right.
somebody, that's my mind just goes like, "Oh my god, like, something
You
went
just go
wrong."
to the
Like
deepest of the all of the trenches and just hit the bottom.
yeah, and
Ugh.
yeah, and I mean, obviously, everything's like, everyone's always fine, but, like, my
Mhm.
mind just in that moment, like, until I hear from them, like, the worst thing has happened.
Oh my gosh. So, if Cassie ever contacts you, y'all gonna need to make sure you respond in a timely fashion. We don't care if you're working.
Mm-mm,
We don't care if you're busy doing something.
not at all.
You better acknowledge that message with a thumbs up or hey, I'll get back to you,
Right.
BRB, or just respond. I don't know, but do her some justice
I needed something because I don't remember
and
being like this beforehand.
send an emoji, something.
Yeah.
We cannot have homegirl over here
Mhm.
stressing.
No, it really it really gets to me, and, I don't know, and I do feel like it's affected, like, my relationships and stuff too with people because I don't see the point in getting attached to people if we're all just gonna, like, die one day anyway?
You are such the one to say that. I
I
know.
am,
I
and it's
get
so
it.
hard.
I get it. Maybe that's why I just don't make new friends because it's like great another person's funeral I have to go to. But
Right.
you know,
So I
but
struggle with the enjoy life, while we have it thing versus the,
The
inevitable, like what's gonna happen one day.
the inevitable end.
Mhm.
But we have to enjoy it. We're here to enjoy it.
I guess.
It's just society makes it hard. There's we're under a government, so there are certain structures that we have to live by or certain constraints put onto us. Like I was just recently talking to someone about how people can't even afford rent, but their pay wages aren't going up. So how are they
Yeah.
affording to live anywhere? But
It's
because
a
things
night.
like that stop us from being able to truly enjoy life. But
Mhm.
you still gotta, like I always say, you still gotta find joy in it somehow.
Yeah, I try. I'm
You do.
getting better at it.
You are. With time. With time.
Yeah, but,
Oh.
you know.
So, uh, so we have uncomplicated PTSD in our opinions. We haven't been medically diagnosed,
Yeah, no.
so we don't actually know. But, if you do want to know because you feel like you're someone who is in that place, definitely get with a doctor and a doctor you trust and do your research on doctors. I'm not saying that doctors are bad, but some doctors, just like with anyone in any profession, some are a little more into their job than others.
Yeah, well, you don't vibe with everybody either, so
That too, yeah. And a second opinion is never a terrible thing to get either,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah, but as long as, people are taking that step to get the help that they need,
Hmm.
because, like I talked about before, this guy that I knew that had, committed suicide, and I don't know for a fact, but I'm speculating that it had a great deal to do with PTSD.
Mm,
Um, so I just think it's like super, super, super important for people to truly like reach out and get that help that they need because you would never really know it looking at people from the outside. So there's only so
you
much
don't.
that we can do to help, you know.
Very true. Oh, very true. So we got to take care of ourselves, people. Even though May was Mental Health Awareness Month, mental health is every month in
Yeah,
all
pretty much.
actuality. So
Yeah.
we got to make sure we're there. And then also too, I know, once everyone hears this episode, it will be the day after National. Um, I already forgot it already.
Cancer
National
survivor.
National Cancer Survivor Awareness Day. June 6th. I do want to say to everyone who has been a survivor to cancer, congratulations to you. And you people are inspirational for being able to fight that battle and to
Definitely.
be able to make it to the other side and be able to show folks that, it doesn't always end with a sad story. It ends with a sad story for the cancer, but it doesn't end with a sad story for you as the person who was hosting that cancer in your body.
Right.
So I just want to say big shout outs to y'all because I could never imagine going through that, regardless if your journey was a short one or a long one. I know, like you said, Cassie, your dad was a survivor for some time, which is freaking
11 years.
awesome.
Mhm.
Hell yeah, that is awesome. So, you know, if y'all are listening and you know someone who has survived, just say something to them. Say something positive to them. Like, you're strong, you know, you're admirable to people because of there's always going to be someone going through it, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and need that positive light to look at and to see that, okay, there can be a light at the end of the tunnel for me. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it's just important that we give a little recognition to y'all. We love y'all.
I think so too. It's super important. I've even been thinking of going to some relay for life events too, because it's something my dad was very active in. Um,
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
yeah,
Just to keep the spirit alive, and to
exactly.
be able to celebrate at least the others who are there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
So,
Oh,
what a beautiful way to wrap up this episode today, guys. We hope that you kind of learned something along with us and, really trying to dive a little into PTSD disorders and stuff. And as always, we're here if you guys need somebody to talk to. Don't be
yes.
afraid. And until next time, unless Amanda has any other words.
We'll see y'all next episode.
Bye.
Bye.